Imagine you're living your life like any other day, doing your job, feeling the sun on your face, and breathing in the salty air at the beach. You're young, healthy, and in your prime, making sure everyone around you is safe. Then, out of nowhere, you notice a strange, itchy rash developing on your neck. You don't think much of it at first, figuring it's just a minor irritation, maybe a heat rash or some kind of bug bite. But then it starts getting worse, a lot worse. The rash doesn't just stay put, it starts moving. You can actually see snake-like lines crawling under your skin. This is the real story of a 19-year-old beach lifeguard from Southern California who experienced something straight out of a nightmare. It all started on a typical summer day. The young man, let's call him Jake, had just wrapped up his shift keeping beachgoers safe and sound. Like most days, he had spent countless hours on the warm, sun-soaked sand, watching over swimmers and making sure no one was in danger. It was an ordinary routine. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But that night, as Jake was winding down, he couldn't shake the uncomfortable feeling on his neck. It was itching like crazy, more than just a little annoyance. When he looked in the mirror, he noticed an angry red rash forming just under his skin. It wasn't just one spot. It seemed to stretch in strange, squiggly patterns. It looked like something had crawled beneath his skin, leaving a wavy, irritated trail behind. Jake tried to convince himself it was nothing, maybe some irritation from the sun, salt, or even the sunscreen he used. He ignored it at first, figuring it would disappear with a good night's sleep. But as the days went by, the rash didn't fade. In fact, it spread. Not only did it keep moving, but the itching became unbearable. The rash began forming more distinct lines that looked disturbingly like something burrowing beneath his skin. At this point, Jake was genuinely freaked out. He tried everything to soothe the irritation: over-the-counter creams, aloe vera, cold compresses, but nothing seemed to work. And no matter how much he scratched, it didn't provide any relief. Instead, it just made the rash angrier. At one point, he even thought he was hallucinating because it truly looked like something alive was crawling inside his skin. His family and friends started to notice the marks too. When they asked him about it, Jake downplayed the situation, embarrassed and confused. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but his anxiety only grew as the rash continued to move, forming new tracks every day. Eventually, his friends convinced him to go to the doctor. When he finally visited a local clinic, the doctor took one look at Jake's neck and immediately knew something was off. Concerned, they ran several tests and examined the affected area closely. What they found was both shocking and horrifying. Jake wasn't just dealing with a skin irritation. The rash wasn't just some kind of allergy or simple infection. It turned out that Jake had something living inside him, a parasitic infection caused by hookworm larvae. The condition is called cutaneous larva migrans, and it's caused when hookworm larvae penetrate the skin. These parasites typically live in contaminated sand or soil, often in places frequented by animals, such as beaches where pets or stray animals might roam. In Jake's case, spending long hours on the sandy beach without any protective barrier between his skin and the ground was likely the reason he became infected. The hookworms burrow under the skin, creating those snake-like patterns as they move through the tissue. The body's reaction to the parasites causes intense itching and inflammation. While it sounds terrifying, the good news is that the infection usually doesn't go deeper than the skin. However, if left untreated, it can persist for weeks or even months, and the constant movement can drive anyone to the brink of insanity. Jake was stunned. A parasite? Living under his skin? He had heard of bizarre infections before, but never in a million years did he think it would happen to him. Right here at the beach, he called his second home. The doctor reassured him that despite how horrifying it looked and felt, the infection was treatable. They prescribed a 2-day course of ivermectin, a medication that targets parasitic infections. After starting the treatment, Jake noticed the itching gradually subsiding. The lines under his skin stopped moving, and the rash began to fade. It was an immense relief to know that the nightmare was finally coming to an end. Jake couldn't believe that something so simple as lying on the sand could have led to such a bizarre and unnerving experience. From that point on, Jake made it a point to be more cautious while working on the beach. He started wearing long-sleeved shirts and using blankets when resting on the sand. He even warned his fellow lifeguards and beachgoers to be mindful of potential infections, especially when spending long hours on the ground. Jake's story serves as a chilling reminder that even the most familiar places can harbor unexpected dangers. Whether it's a beach, a park, or your own backyard, it's essential to be cautious and aware of your surroundings. What started as a small, itchy rash turned out to be something far more sinister. Luckily for Jake, he sought medical help in time and made a full recovery. But the experience left him with a valuable lesson. Always take strange symptoms seriously and never ignore what your body is trying to tell you. The next time you're at the beach, enjoying the sun and the waves, take a moment to think about Jake's story. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can turn into the biggest surprises, and not always the good kind.